blessings. Blessing unity, family and friends that surround us, for the good people who take care of us and look after us. Father, we're thankful that we live in a land where we enjoy these freedoms. We pray that you will continue to watch over and bless our community. We pray now, Father, tonight, especially for our leaders, that, Father, you may grant them wisdom and strength and courage, not only to know and understand the right thing, but, Father, to have the wisdom on how to act and the courage to do that. We know, Father, it's a great temptation of ours as human beings to seek to use power in all its forms. Money power, political power, influence for our own gain, for our own benefit. And we pray, Father, that you continue to give our leadership the selfless to need it in order to bless our community as a whole. And as we grow and as we prosper, help us to also be mindful, Father, of those who are struggling. We pray, Father, all this in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman French.
Here.
Alderman Patton.
Here.
Alderman Bellamy.
Here.
Vice Mayor Missick.
Here.
Alderman
Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes for the June 7th meeting? It has been moved and seconded. The motion is as presented. Any corrections?
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Missick.
I'd like to just thank the rec department, everybody who participated in the fireworks and 4th of July. We have gotten so many compliments how the fireworks was, what a good job Thunder Radio did, and I just want to reiterate how many compliments and thank everybody who participated, everybody who attended. Any comments from the citizens? Comment from the mayor. I always like to see a full house, and I appreciate everybody turning out for Ryan's gathering. I just thank everybody for coming tonight, and I just appreciate it. Now, on to committees. Safety.
You not have a meeting there.
Finance.
We didn't have a meeting either.
Street.
We didn't have a meeting either. George, no.
Water and sewer. Recreation.
The meeting's held next Thursday at Unit Rec Center.
Tourism. Planning and zoning.
Our meeting is scheduled for the 18th.
Information system.
We didn't have a meeting.
Historic zoning.
We will have. Third.
Thank you. Okay, we'll run along, get into resolutions.
Madam Mayor, the first one has a resolution to extend the Rogers Proving unit price contract for road materials and pavement services 1 year pursuant to the bid. And they bid the year before last and extended 1 year if they would agree. It has a price adjustment in bituminous asphalt index published by the state, so it moves, but it moved the first year. We didn't have one bid, I think, last time.
I'll make a motion so far as there was only one person that did it.
It has been moved and seconded. The motion is as presented. Are there any comments? Could you clarify that?
A lot of groups only did it.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols.
Second reading of an ordinance zoning 11 and 61 100 acres owned by John Kenneth McMahon and Robert S. McMahon recently annexed the city as R4 residential. Conflicts on this one, so Alderman French. He said needs a motion first.
I make a motion. Second.
Okay, I think Mayor Howard and Vice Mayor Messick both have conflicts on this one. So we'll roll or
Sure. The motion made and the second. Is there any discussion? Okay, call them, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick.
Abstain.
Alderman Nichols.
second reading of an ordinance amending Commission Code 18205 relative to water rates. That's the first reading last meeting.
It has been moved and seconded. The motion is as presented. Any discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols.
First reading of an ordinance amending Title 14, Chapter 6, Sections 1 and 2 of the Manchester Municipal Code, same being the zoning ordinance to amend the ordinance and zoning map to provide that real estate owned by Dan Davis and Pamela Gallen located at 7.7 Oak Street be rezoned as R4 residential from R3 residential.
Do you hear a motion?
So moved.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols.
Under old business, we have some other ordinances in the fiscal development plan regarding county and properties. Alderman Bellamy voted no, and this did not pass the last time to rezone that property. He would be the one that would take action to,
I'd like to bring that back to the table.
probably a motion to reconsider.
Motion to reconsider, and I'd like to hear from our two gentlemen. One of them wasn't here last time.
You will need a second. We'll have to reconsider it before we open the
I'll
vote.
second it.
It has been moved and seconded. Motion is as Alderman Bellamy presented. Any discussion on it?
And this is to reconsider,
To
right?
reconsider. Call roll, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton.
Yes.
Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols.
Procedurally, we're back where we were at the other meeting.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Okay. The second reading of the ordinance.
Correct, to rezone R4.
This is public, this is part, we have in public meetings. Motion has been made, seconded. Any discussion from the public? And I would ask that I'll hold it to 3 minutes. Any discussion?
And just to be clear, this was the resolution, not the rezoning, but the resolution to amend the fiscal development plan. Correct?
Correct. Yes, that's the way it's listed.
Okay. So Mark Williams, I was here, of course, last month, talked about this, made a presentation. Just to remind everybody, of course, I'm also chairman of the Planning Commission. And as we look at this, one of the things I think I mentioned to you all last month was that the Planning Commission has been conducting a study on the land use plan. This property is currently shown as medium density, which would be R3. It's currently zoned R2, which is low density, and it's adjoined strictly by R3 and R2 properties. As we discussed last month, some of the items in the zoning ordinance, specifically 14605, some of the goals for this board are to protect residential areas as far as possible against heavy traffic, and to protect them against congestion by regulating the density of the population and the bulk of buildings in relation to the land around them. We're talking about a small piece of property, about 2 acres, and if the owner is allowed to leapfrog over R3 to R4, you would go from being able to put 8 families on that small tract to 34. R3 would allow for 17. But if we just think about R4 for a minute, I think what we heard last month was they want to put as many people on that property as possible, so we got to go with the 34 number. If you think about on this dead-end street, everybody having 2 cars, there's already 10 units across the street. That's 10 cars. You put 34 over there with 2, that's another 68, plus the individual, Mr. Thomas, that lives at the dead end. Even if he only had 2, which I think he's got 4, you're up to 90 cars per day on that, potentially on that street. I think that's just too high of a density. I think R3 is more appropriate. If you look at the item you just had on the agenda, one of the differences is that property adjoined R4. So it was received a recommendation to go to R4. If you think at the last planning commission meeting this past month, we had an individual with 5 separate tracks looking to change to R4 from various around the city from various other zones. The planning commission requested that individual defer until this land use study was done his rezoning request, which he agreed to do, because otherwise they would have all received a negative recommendation. I think it's important to note on this particular item, the meeting that this was heard was a number of months ago. Some of the people that were there are no longer on the planning commission. It only received 3 out of 7 votes, with the mayor also voting against, but that was 3 or 4, so I don't vote unless there's a tie. So that's the way it came through the planning commission before. I certainly believe that now, were it to come back, it would receive the same recommendation that or lack of recommendation, I guess, that was received at the last month's meeting for that individual and those other 5 R4 requests. So my request would be that you leave the land use or plan alone at medium density, and if the owner wants to come back and request an R3 zone, that would fit within the existing land use plan, would not require an amendment, and would allow it to be rezoned as R3, which I would not object to because R3 is across the street from this property. So my request would be that you not amend the physical development plan to change it for medium density. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Don Parker. I'm the one that was on vacation when you guys voted last time. Thank you, Mark. Mark owns the property across the street that he's talking about with the new condos there on Haley Drive. I own all of, from Highway 41 all the way back to the very back of Haley Drive. I own all of it. So I touch the state highway actually all the way up. What Mark's talking about is Haley Drive is obviously a 2-lane road, and we have them all over, obviously, just pretty much every single road in Manchester. I'm not sure about the 90 cars that he's coming up with, but if it's 90 or 100 or 70, whatever it may be, I think Mark has a R3 with an exception. Is that correct, on your property, with an exception?
Or down, same density.
R3 with exception, right. So I want an R4, it'll create 17 more homes is what it will do. So at a R3, it's 17 like Mark said, and a R4 will take it to 17 additional homes. I feel like Haley Drive can handle 17 more homes down through there. I've got to build mine up just like he did his, get it out of floodplain. I just don't see how it's an impact as far as the road itself. I had spoken with Brian as far as infrastructure, sewer, and so forth. I think maybe you had to put a pump there. Obviously, I'll do whatever's engineered to do that to make sure it's in code and it's feasible that we don't have any problems. But I would love to have your vote for an R4. It'd be hard for me to see why this wouldn't be able to go to R4, I guess, if it touches a main state highway. It's literally on the highway, all the way to the highway. So But it is additional 17 homes, is what it is. I did bring this up, I think 3 years ago when I bought it, I was trying to get in a climate-controlled storage building, and it got voted down, obviously. That would have created no traffic. I mean, you go in, you put your stuff there, and you just don't ever see anyone. Mark was opposed to that as well. Mark would like to buy my property. That's why you see Mark in here so much, obviously. So that's why you've seen so much attendance out of Mark on this particular one. So if he can keep it down, he thinks he has a better chance to buy it, obviously. So,
I'd ask that you keep the personal comments.
well, it's just,
Out.
he asked me today. So, but thank you so much. R4 is what I need.
Can I ask you one question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You would not be, I know you won't be happy, but would you be devastated if it went to R3?
I need it to be R4 with the amount I paid. It's the feasibility of it just doesn't work out. And it's just, we've got one house down there right now. I'm not even sure, you don't have a certificate of occupancy on any of your stuff right now, do you? You're still under construction, is that right? There's one house on Haley Drive. There's 4 cars on Haley Drive. That's all there is.
Property that you own that borders 41 is commercial, is that correct?
Yes, sir. It goes commercial back to R2, all the way back. So right there where they're cleaning off the trees and the old foundation and so forth, I'm trying to clean that mess up, put gravel. Guys, anything I've done in this town, obviously, I've done first class. DeVille Plaza, that was the old Family Dollar. I made it into something great. Stonehenge Extended Stay Suites over across from the old hospital. It looks amazing now. It was a wreck. I spent a ton of money there. I bought the strip center next door to that. Maybe you've seen it get repainted, new parking lot, redoing all that. Everything I'm going to do, I hold long-term forever. So I'll do rental just like Mark across the street. I'm not selling them, I'm keeping them to rent. Any other questions? All right, thanks, guys.
Any more comments from the board?
Yeah, I sit on a committee that is looking at land use, and that's your invitation. I've been there visiting as a citizen, now visiting as, like it's an Alderman, so hopefully continue to citizen. I'm going to recommend that this whole area down Highway 41 is zoned R5. Several months ago, I asked Attorney Buell to develop a template for an R5 ordinance in our town. And he did that. It looks really good. He researched it excellently and all that. And that's kind of what generated this committee that's doing the land use look. Now, mostly it's St. John's Engineering, who's always looking after our town and prodding us to keep looking forward and thinking. And as more and more people move here, we're going to have to consider the city center being more dense than it is now and moving out to less dense and finally suburban areas, which I guess over time will become dense on their own. But and speaking to developers, not just developers just standing here, but other developers are saying they can no longer do the number of units that they're doing on an acre of land because of the cost of construction, the cost of land, the cost of everything. So this land use, we're really looking at not only R4, but R5. And I've got a feeling that as soon as we vote, and I hope this board, I probably won't be here, if this board has got to vote for this new zone, and we've got to have that, R4 does not do it.
So are you making an amendment to the motion?
I'm trying to explain why I'm going to vote for this and why I have voted for it. I'm not making any kind of amendment. No. I'm just, did I sound like I'm making an amendment? Oh, well, I'm going to let this committee finish its work, which is a great committee, by the way. I'm still going, it's good?
If it doesn't pertain to this,
It's exactly pertains to this. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
you're making comment like,
Haley Drive should be R5, not R4. And I bet you as soon as we do R5, the developers are going to be coming here saying they're going to want to go to R5. Because the cost of construction, it precludes R2 in so many places, R3, and even R4 in some instances. And it's just going to, it's coming, we've got, and what we're trying to do is plan ahead for it, not let it overwhelm us when it gets here. It's sort of nudging us now, but it's not overwhelming. So I'm saying the reason to vote for this, not only R4, but R5 if it comes up, because it is exactly on that corridor. And to say that a guy down at the end of the street's got 4 cars, he can't drive them all at one time. Those are just anecdotal numbers that mean they have no real bearing or anything. Not everybody leaves for work at the same time. You know, that's always what people say in planning is good traffic without any kind of substantive documentation of that. It's always anecdotal, and I've always rejected that on hand. Everybody won't drive all 108 cars out of there at one time and come home at one time. It's not going to hurt anything, and Highway 41 traffic. So I encourage everybody to vote for this. The second reading, just like we did the first reading.
Any more comments from the board?
I voted no last time, and I went down and drove down and looked at the area. And that area is not what I thought it was. I was, I guess in my dumbness, is that a word? Seen the 3 big buildings there and figured, well, that's what's going to be over here, and then we'll put these little houses over here. When I went and looked at it, most things that are surrounding this area are duplexes, with the exception of what Mr. Williams is building. And I was wondering how many streets are going to be down there. We'll have to split the property, but that's neither here nor there. So that's the reason I brought it back. It was not exactly what I thought it was, and I wanted to be as fair as I could, especially to
Ms. Parker.
Parker. So you're, as you said, motion has been made and the second reading of this.
We're actually just on amending the physical development plan right now first, and then we'll get to that.
I would say this, I hate that these zoning issues come down to these individual projects, which I don't see there's a way to avoid it. I mean, it is. You have land use and you want to try to follow that, but you're growing, and then you also have other considerations like construction costs, is certainly one of them. Mr. Nichols brought that up. That's something you have to think about if you want to continue to grow. A lot of times, when we start, one of the things that really bothers me right now is affordability of housing in Manchester. You know, when we start restricting houses that come in, that's going to continue to go in the wrong direction for us. But I also will say this, that I think the argument for the R5 conceptually is good. I just preliminarily heard about that. I think that's the direction we have to go. But I'll also say this, back to my original statement, I hate the individuality of these, but at the same time, both Mr. Williams and Mr. Parker demonstrated that they do create quality developments in our community, and I always think you have to take that into consideration. And I've said that multiple times that these things, the room's been full, everybody's cussing you and all that kind of thing. So it's an interesting debate.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we're voting on the resolution to amend the land use of this area.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols.
That clears the way if the board's pleasure is to amend the zoning ordinance. It would require a motion to reconsider, and also, no, we didn't get to it because we didn't pass the resolution last time, so the zoning ordinance wasn't
I'll make a
considered.
motion that way, I'm good either way.
No, it's just to pass it, or however you want to. We
This is
didn't,
second reading.
it's a second reading. We don't reconsider because it didn't get a vote last time. When the physical development plan was amended, there was no possible way we could have
So this was first reading?
No, second reading, but it's the second reading. But it's the first time we don't have to reconsider it because we didn't consider it last time.
We can go straight to the motion for the second reading.
Correct.
I got a motion for the second reading.
Second.
The motion has been made, second. The motion is as presented as the second reading of this ordinance. Any discussion?
So we're rezoning this time, to R4.
Correct.
Alderman French. Alderman Hudson. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols.
Moving on to new business, they, World 2 to 139.03 Bank. Sewer rehab bids, we have two resolutions that one was from North Excavation.
I'll make a motion for Norris Excavation.
Any discussion?
Yeah, so one of the big questions about that, somebody was good enough to send me, I don't know what it was, a YouTube video about Smyrna or somewhere else that had an issue with this group, and it was about their, I can't remember, there were all kind of things flying around about their bonding capacity, about their claims on bonds in different municipalities. And I called the agent after about 10 phone calls. I ended up calling Kentucky, ended up calling back Brentwood, whatever. Finally got a hold of him. And he said that they're a great customer. And in insurance, one of the things, claims is one thing, but it's also exposure, like how big of a business is it to have this many claims. It didn't seem like the claims were a huge thing in the overall world of their business. Now, is the fellow we talked to here the other day kind of truculent and a little bit, yeah. But you know what? So what? He kind of, I thought he left one of his electrical contractors out and hanging on the line a little bit maybe, but I don't know what all that was. But the bonding capacity really isn't an issue, nor are his claims on the bond. And the insurance guy said he was a great customer.
Any more comments from the board or Adam?
No,
Jim?
I do, I want it to be in the record because this is such a delicate project, right? Like that was the first time I had sat in on kind of, and I know they've happened, I'm not saying it's the first time it's ever happened, that's the first time we really broke down into a bid. I don't know the price was one reason, but this is an important project, and I think it needs to be lent that attention, and it has had that from the water and sewer department from the get-go. And I get it, you know, people are tired of seeing pumps and all this. There's a process. We have to follow the process. We all up here have to do our due diligence on a project, particularly one that's been messed up like this. But I felt satisfied coming out of that meeting. So I think that was a good fact-finding opportunity.
And you know the difference of 100% between this bid and the next bid, and Adam, the St. John's has, covered that like crazy. Like, I think we've got all the exposure to the city kind of addressed, and the difference, and that's 100% difference in the bid is $2 million. You can put up a lot of innovation for that, and that's difference between a $2 and $4 million bid, roughly.
Yeah, and I'll say that Adam and St. John's, you want to talk about people holding their feet to the fire, besides Gerald, you always did a great job of that, Attorney Jewel. But Adam was doing that, they were very forthcoming with their answers. So this is a sensitive subject for our community, it should be, but we've done the right thing. It's taken longer than anybody up here. I can guarantee you there's no 7 people in this community that want this fixed as quickly as us. But this is the process, and I'm satisfied with where we're at.
And I will say that this board has done lots of research on this, and there's asked lots of questions, and And at this time, Gerald, do you want to kind of summarize what Adam suggested and
Yeah,
or have Adam to do it and then
And I would like to add this into the, if we vote on this some way, the recommendations from St. John Engineering, is that going to be in the?
it's not in the resolution, but I was going to bring that up to both you gentlemen's point, that he recommended that we hire a full-time inspector on this job, and I think that's warranted considering the gulf between the bids.
I'd like to, I'll make a motion to amend my motion. Is there anything else to add to that? Because I'll add that and.
It's not in the written thing, but we can put it in.
Look, is there any other recommendations that we want to add in?
I think probably the inspector is the, and there was something about the contract management, but I think that's St. John. I don't think that requires a board action about not paying until certain things are done and done correctly and things like that. I think they're absolutely dead on those issues about the bypass pumping and about the bore under the road by the soccer field, to not pay those until they were done correctly. I think that's just administration on St. John's part. I don't think that requires action at all.
I'll make a motion to add a full-time inspector into the original motion.
And then we'll have a little bit of expense, but as Alderman Nichols pointed out, the amount of money is infinitesimal compared to the difference in bids.
There's also, does this come up about the $80,000 for pipe that's sitting down there, it's been in the sun, whether we use that or not? Is that a different conversation or is that this conversation?
That's something the engineering, the pipe manufacturer will have to, they'll get a deducted, they'll just, it's a unit price, I think, on that. They'll get, will they get a deducted, they can use our pipe, or?
Well, in speaking with the pipe manufacturer, they will not warranty it at this point.
But I still think that saves $80,000 when the pipe's been out in the sun, but it's also meant to last for 100 years, right? I mean, you think the pipe's bad? What would you, that's not a fair question to ask you.
they cannot, I don't see how it something went wrong.
Yeah.
The pipe company.
To be honest, we would warranty. I'm saying the city of Manchester would warranty the pipe if we used it. To be honest. I don't care. But is the pipe, do you think the pipe is, what's the word?
I mean,
Degraded? I said not degraded.
I couldn't tell you. I mean, there's ways of inspecting it or having somebody inspect it to determine that. The problem is that if you know, like at Gateway Tire, this thing's going to be buried 18 foot deep by the time they pressure test it. So if they pressure test it and things go bad.
Oh, I wouldn't use it there. I was thinking maybe use it out in the fields. Do they got to use that? Under 55 there.
I guess they could order their pipe and use it just there.
Just under the
ground, it's going to be difficult to have a contractor dig it back up, because he just going to point at you and say, well, it's your pipe, so.
Well, are there less demanding projects in the future we could possibly use it for? Or we're just not going to use that size pipe?
I mean, you can use it for repairs and that kind of thing, or maybe those ones emergency repairs we're fixing to do would be a much better application probably than this job.
I'll take it back. It's much better.
I certainly would recommend use pipe.
I mean, stuff's got to be in the ground for 100 years.
If we use the unwarranty pipe, would that notify the warranty from our construction company?
Yes, I mean, they would still have to warranty that it was at the right depth and the right level, but if there was a leak, there'd be a bunch of finger pointing. And as he pointed out, it's 20 feet down or at the bottom of a creek, or, you know, if you used it, you know, across open ground, it's not that big a deal to dig it up, but you can be sure the man that's going to charge you to dig it up is going to get a premium for fixing your problem. But, I mean, I think probably keeping it used to.
We'll probably get paid for that with the bond.
I don't know that we paid for that part to start with. I don't know if it's, yeah, we get credit one way or the other off the original.
So that's off the table.
Thank you.
I have a motion for the amendment to add the inspector, full-time inspector.
I second that.
So the motion has been made and amended that we will have a full-time inspector, not in-house, but hired full-time. Any discussion on that?
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols.
We're back to, a motion has been made to accept and seconded to accept Gorse Brothers excavation bid at $2,410,520. Any more discussion on it?
I'm just saying the city manager would have been a lot more adept at doing what I did over the past 2 weeks on this issue. They're trained to go to college to learn how to do it. Just saying the city manager would have been indispensable during this time.
Well, I will say this, from being in the construction business, when this thing gets ready to go down and contract signed, you wouldn't have to have the city manager. They would either have a bond or not. But that's just my experience in construction business. Any more discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols.
Okay, next on the agenda is Chief Operation for the wastewater treatment plant, job description. It's in your packet. Do I hear a motion to approve the job? Do I hear a second to approve?
Second.
The motion has been moved and approved. The motion is as presented. Do I hear any more discussion? Okay, call roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the job description for the Manchester Wastewater Sewer Department Director's job description. And this has been open, this position, but we fine-tuned the job description. Do I hear a motion to approve the job description?
So
Any discussion?
this is one, real quick, this is George's, right? This
No,
wastewater.
no. This is the, for Kevin Parham. Isn't he doing it now? Down?
Wastewater is
Oh, I
chief operator.
understand.
Any more discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols.
Next on the agenda is Manchester Fire Department promotions.
City engineer contract.
No.
No, it's structural and wait on that contract for the August.
Chief? Well, thanks for asking. I could have skipped it back then.
I'd like to announce the recent promotions we've had. First off, Mark Reed, please. Mark Reed's been promoted to our new training officer position. We'll take that job over 18th of July. Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations, Martin.
Mr. Reed, or Mr. Woods. Jerry's been promoted to the fire inspector position here at the city. He's our new fire inspector for the city of Manchester.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Jerry.
Mr. Hickerson. And Mr. Hickerson's been recently promoted to a driver operator position. Mr. Woods left one. Mr. Hickerson's placing as the driver operator on the show. Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
If they'll stay around until after, and we'll take pictures.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we have the
Oath of
OS.
office for Mr. Graham, Mr. Langford, Mr. Kraus, Mr. Strong.
All right.
Mr. Graham, Mr. Kraus, Mr. Langford, Mr. Strong. Y'all step forward.
time, but I'm going to let you call your name out individually so they'll be at home. Would you hold up your right hand, please? I, Lamont Graham, Brandon Spry, Ethan Crouch, and Jay Lincoln, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and of the state of Tennessee, and I will discharge the duties of firefighter for the city of Manchester, Tennessee, faithfully, honestly, impartially, and to the best of my ability. Congratulations. Welcome to the fire department.
You already left, but Brian Pennington was amazing water and sewer director for a lot of years. We're going to miss him. He's built a really good team in the department. But sure hate to see him go. So just that was
Just like everybody that works for the city does an excellent job. You do a whole lot with little.
just want to say congratulations on you guys' promotions and you fellas getting the workforce here. And everybody in this city should be thankful that we have a police and fire department as good as we have. And I appreciate each and every one of you for going out and doing your job every day.
I agree with that.
Same for me. Appreciate you guys. Very cool.
Okay, with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All approved, say aye. Aye. All right.